Hello everyone and welcome back to Hell Yeah Games, Jeff Rambles. Reason for this one being that there's been a lot of issues with my son's daycare being shut down, and there's just a lot of craziness going on, so I haven't had the time to record, edit everything. So, because of that, today, Jeff's Rambles is taking the place of a normal episode so that I can tell you all about my top 5 favorite villains in One Piece. Since we covered devil fruits last time, I figured villains was the next best step to go ahead from here, and I got a couple rules for how I handle it. Rule number 1, they have to not have had any kind of redemption arc or be made to be super sympathetic. In the case of that, like Mr. 2 called Bon Curé, he would, real name Bentham, he would absolutely be at the top of the list, but he's also, a major ally and became quite the good guy. So in situations like that, they're not being counted, just people who haven't had any kind of redemption arc. Rule number 2 is that they have to have been a major player. If not the big bad of the arc they feature in, then at least one of the big bad's biggest recruits, like their right-hand man. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and start off the list with who could be one of the biggest bads in the whole series. He started out as Admiral Aka Inu, and he is now Fleet Admiral Sakazuki, the one of the most powerful fighters in the series, and the Marine Admiral who can throw around magma like it's nobody's business. The man who killed Luffy's brother Ace. And Sakazuki takes absolute justice to the extreme, and there's always something that I enjoy about Knight Templars who believe what they're doing is for the best and aren't willing to compromise, in that the ends justify the means always to these people, and that is Sakazuki in a nutshell. The man opened fire on a refugee boat on the off chance that maybe one of their targets snuck aboard, killing hundreds of civilians that they were supposed to be protecting. There is really nothing much more to be said about the man than how extreme he is in carrying out justice. He believes in punishment above salvation, and that's a very slippery slope, to be sure. But it makes him interesting, it makes him ruthless and cruel, and it gives him a spot in my top 5. Next up, we have Impel Down's deputy, Hannibal, or as he became after the time skip, the full-on warden. I love Hannibal for the exact opposite reasons that I like Sakazuki, in that he believes in protecting the people above all else, and in other circumstances might not have been a villain to Luffy. Just that Luffy was trying to break out of the prison, and he is the assistant warden to that prison. So the people must be protected from the monsters inside. And he looks scary. He always jokes about going for his Magellan's job as warden, and got it. He's such a Starscream, such a usurper, but everything he does is because he believes in protecting the people from evil. And that has to be admired. He is a man who would not stay down. Next up, we have one of my favorite characters in the entire franchise, Buggy the Clown. And a lot of people don't really like Buggy. They think he's annoying. too much comic relief. He's not really welcome in a lot of situations. I love Buggy. Not just because he's hilarious. He'll raise your town for making fun of his nose. But I like Buggy for a lot of reasons. Like, when you first meet him, then you find out he has a connection to Shanks, and for that reason he dislikes Luffy. But then, later you find out that he's one of the people who keeps coming back and is even more important than that. He started as a small bit villain. But then his connections to the overarching story. He used to be part of Goldie Rogers' crew. He sailed the Grand Line already as an apprentice pirate. He just opted to be the big fish in a tiny pond in the East Blue. He's lazy, so he doesn't train himself, even though, by Oda's word, he has the potential to be one of the most powerful people on the planet. But he would rather just treat himself lavishly, as any real pirate would. But then there's just something to be said about how his background allows him to be a lot more dangerous than his actual skill level, just by pure reputation, how he attracts followers like no one's business. I love Buggy. Anytime Buggy is on screen, on page, I love him. Always. Next up, we have, checking my list here real quick, because it's early and my brain is dead. Let's see here. Sakazuki. Doflamingo. Don Quixote Doflamingo. I know that his main arc has been the longest Dressrosa dragged on for most people. I actually enjoyed Dressrosa. I know it had the longest pacing, or the longest time frame, and some of the worst pacing of any arc in the whole series, but I liked Dressrosa beginning to end, and Doflamingo is a huge reason why. The heavenly demon Doflamingo with his string powers, a world noble, one of the celestial dragons, cast out by the rest of his kind, who was a born psychopath. Then brought on all of the terrible things that's ever happened to him in his life on himself. Like, there's nothing else to be said there. His whole life, yes, he had a terrible childhood, brought on entirely by himself for being completely batshit insane. And he is incredibly powerful. His schemes are cruel as they are brilliant. Brilliant and cruel in equal measures. There has been absolutely nothing about him that has been even remotely redeeming whatsoever. Buggy is comical and still loves his men. His actual men, not the people who flock to him for his reputation. Aka Inu still believes he's carrying out justice despite everything he does. Freaking Hannibal is all about real justice and protecting the people. Doflamingo is just selfish and insane and sadistic. Even his family that raised him are just pawns, are just pieces on the board. And there's so much to be said there. Which brings us to my fifth and final, and I have to check my notes again real quick. Orochi is the latest, and his arc is not done. So I just want it to be out there that this opinion is subject to change as things progress. But as of right now, I really appreciate Orochi. He schemed his way up from being a simple errand boy for a nobleman. and he took power. We haven't seen how yet, but probably in a way that's not very nice. We know already that he had Odin boiled alive, so that's certainly something to work against him, showing his cruel nature. His devil fruit, a mythic Zoan, the 8-headed serpent, is just cool to me. We don't know how he is in a fight yet, but his scheming is definitely up there, and his paranoia is justified. And it leads him to very simple yet very effective strategies. Like, all of his men think he's crazy. Who cares? He's still in charge. They still have to follow his orders, and what he says goes. So break these bridges, and suddenly, oh look, the revolution 20 years in the making, based off of a simple prophecy from 2 decades ago that no one else believes in, is thwarted, because guess what? They can't get there anymore. So he doesn't take threats idly. He doesn't underestimate the situation, despite everyone around him thinking that he's just paranoid. And he takes the measures needed to thwart his opponents before they even have the chance to bring the fight to him, which is not something that we've really seen in a One Piece villain to this degree. And for that reason, he's earned a place in my top 5, pending the rest of the current arc going on. So thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed my list of top 5 favorite One Piece villains, drop a like. Subscribe if you want to. I would really appreciate it. And hey, comment down below, who are your favorite villains in One Piece? I would love to have a discussion. I'll reply to every comment that comes my way. Thank you very much. Have a fantastic day as always. And of course, hell yeah!